Hey, Ivan, what's up, man? How you doing? Can't tell who else is in the room. What's up? Couldn't get the rest of the panel to do a bonus episode tonight like we were planning on. Everybody's at work, so I'm just going to do a solo Q&A here on Periscope. Anybody missed the event, have any questions, or want to talk some shit about the new Apple products? What are you most pumped for? Like, what's the one you're going to buy? I'm actually pretty stoked about the Apple TV. I didn't think I was going to be, but kind of want one. I like my Chromecast a lot, but really like the unified experience on the Apple TV. Unified search and the fact that I can send my iTunes library from my Mac down to it and play that in the living room, which is nice because my office is upstairs where my MacBook is. Apple TV is bottom of your list, Ivan. I'm interested. What's at the top? Why isn't Apple TV on the list? Are you using Roku or something like that? If they could find a better way to incorporate music into the Chromecast, I would just stick with the Chromecast and not go to the Apple TV. But I'm really liking the idea that I could AirPlay music from my phone or my computer to the Apple TV. Because I hate not being able to just cast my iTunes and my Apple Music to my TV with my Chromecast. What's at the top of everybody else's list? We had the iPhone 6S and 6S Plus today. We had some new Apple Watches, iPad Pro, iPad Mini 4, which didn't get much press. And then, what was the other product today? Apple Watch, iPad Pro, oh, the Apple TV, which we were just talking about. What's your big ticket purchase? Oh, you're all Android and Google, Ivan. Okay, that makes sense. That's fair. So a lot of this tech, in terms of like the physical devices, you kind of have already, I would think, or have options for. Maybe not so much iPad Pro. I don't know. I've seen a lot of people call the iPad Pro just a new Windows Surface, or Microsoft Surface rather. I've used a couple of the Surfaces, and I think the touch is really lacking on them. I'm an Apple fan, but I'm kind of split between ecosystems. At home, I'm all Apple, and at work, I'm mostly Windows. So if it were up to me, I would just be Apple, but I work in both, and so I can kind of see the merits of both. But yeah, I think the iPad Pro is more than just a Surface. You thought that about the Pro too, that it's just a Surface? I think hardware-wise, it's a lot more impressive than the Surface. What kind of work do I do? I do social media marketing and a bit of graphic design and web design. So what I do would primarily be done on Apple devices at most companies, but we're a Windows office. But then I also have an iPad. It's a very weird setup. I do not recommend straddling the Windows Apple line in a corporate IT system, by the way. It's one thing to do it in your own house, but to do it at work where you also have, enterprise solutions running, it just creates so many headaches. Like, my IT department was reluctant to put iCloud on my PC so that I could send photos to my iPad so that I could post them on Instagram. Just stupid little headaches like that you shouldn't have to think about. So I'm a very one ecosystem and done kind of person, but my work doesn't allow that, so that kind of sucks. But getting back to the iPad Pro, I really like it. It's out of my price range, having just bought a MacBook Pro last summer, but I could see it being a laptop replacement for some people. Not everybody, obviously, but graphic designers, architects, really anybody who's doing visual work, I think the iPad Pro is kind of a lifesaver because it's a Wacom tablet and an all-in-one put together. I think that's the market that should be really scared, is the drawing tablet market. Because if Apple's doing this on the iPad Pro, the next Surface is just going to have better pen technology, and we're slowly going to inch the Wacom's and people like that kind of out of their own industry. I don't know. I'll be interested to see how that plays out. What else? What other shit talking we got? How do we feel about new Apple Watches, new Apple Watch cases, new Apple Watch bands? What's up, Hammett4? Don't have a separate tablet because my phone is huge and I haven't felt the need for an extra device. That's fair. I didn't need or want a tablet until I got the one for work. I like having it, but I don't know. It does kind of like replace time I spend on my phone or replace time I spend on my laptop. It doesn't really have any unique use cases, at least for me. Blah on the watches. I'm not going to say blah on the watches. I'm going to say, why didn't they just come out with all of them in the first place? I think the leather bands from Hermes are really great. The Product Red watch actually looks better than I expected. But why didn't they come out at first launch? Were Red and Hermes like skeptical about the Apple Watch? That seems like a dumb decision. But at the same time, it seems like a dumb decision by Apple to get a bunch of early adopters to buy the watch and then come out 6 months later and say, oh, by the way, here are a bunch of new finishes and new bands for your Apple Watch. I think they could have captured a much bigger market had they just brought everything out right at the beginning. So yeah, not a fan of the Apple Watch rollout at all. Staggering bands is probably to increase hype artificially. I don't know. I mean, I was more hyped. It's pretend development. I was more hyped when the new bands came out, I have to say. When I was watching the keynote, I was like, oh, these new bands are awesome. Now that I've been a few hours removed from it, I'm like, still not going to spend $350 on an Apple Watch because of it. But it's a nice thought. I think I'll have to see how watchOS 2 goes. I'm not going to buy a first generation Apple product. Like, I just don't do that because I know better. But watchOS 2 sounds like a drastic improvement on watchOS 1, especially with the amount of third-party apps they're introducing. Still kind of pissed that there are no third-party app or watch faces. Hello Internet podcast did a lot of great talk about that, where that's an amazing opportunity for watchmakers if they do third-party watch faces. But I don't know if Apple will do it. It might take a couple more iterations of watchOS to get there. And that's really disappointing. Because I know a lot of people who are really into watches would be much more comfortable if they could choose their own face on the Apple Watch. And the faces they have aren't all that great. The photo face is kind of nice, but I think some of the other faces that come standard on it are not that attractive. Not interested in a watch that you still need to carry a phone. Yeah, that's really fair. I carry my phone all the time because of what I do for work. But if I didn't have this job, yeah, that would be a major issue for me. Because it is, yeah, it's tethered to your phone in every sense. Like, it's completely useless if your phone dies or anything like that. And that could be a real problem. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. What happens when your phone battery dies and you have an Apple Watch? It's gotta be a tough time. But that's the thing now anyway, is like, what happens when your devices die out in the wild? Watches and Google Glass type things seem like a poor substitute for the brain chips we'll have in the future. Whoa, Ivan, getting super tech singularity on us. I don't like to think about that. Not that I'm scared of having brain chips, but I don't like to think about, this tech is just a poor substitute for what we'll have 10 years from now. Cyberpunk, yeah. Because the tech we have now is the tech we have, and so I'm much more about let's use the tech while we have it. Even if it does mean, buying an iPhone 6 and then realizing 12 months later, oh, you know what? Maybe I should have waited for the 6S. Yeah, it is a good point, Ivan. That's right. Sometimes I'm right about shit. Not often, but occasionally. Yeah, let's talk about the 6S. 6S is interesting. Um, it's interesting from a marketing perspective that they called it um, exactly the same except not at all, or I forget what the marketing slogan is. Nothing's changed except everything. That's what it is. And that's an interesting point. I mean, the phone looks exactly the same on the outside like they do every time they do one of these S updates. But the internals have made some significant changes. The 3D touch is pretty neat. I'm pretty stoked on that. Not enough to swap out my phone, but I'm pretty stoked on it. New camera, not surprised. New front-facing camera, a little more surprised. No talk about battery life. Did anybody else notice that? There was no discussion of battery life on the 6S. Which is really scary when they put this 3D touch thing in that has an even bigger haptic engine. I'm thinking the battery life is going to be not so great on the 6S. And it's not always great on the 6, I have to say. I sometimes feel like my 6 does worse than my 5 did, but that's also an iOS 8 problem. iOS 8 is just so bloated, and I'm like counting down the hours until the iOS 9 update because I want that in my life. I want that in and around my phone. Only 2 people left. Let's get some shit talking going. What'd you love? What did you hate? What are you gonna buy? What are you not gonna buy? What do you wish they would have announced today? This is something we were gonna talk about on the podcast, and we decided not to. And then we were gonna do like a bonus episode after the announcement, but obviously that fell through. So, what's the thought there? What could they have announced today that they didn't? I would have liked to see something about the iPad Mini 4, even if it was just like a little lip service. I like the iPad Mini. I think it's a neat product line. They updated it. Why didn't they say something about it? That's weird. They also didn't give us a firm release date for OS X El Capitan, which sucks because Yosemite, while it's nice, just kind of opened up even more problems when it added Apple Music, and I'm really hoping that a lot of those problems are fixed in El Cap, but they didn't even say anything about it. They didn't even really talk about Apple Music that much. They talked about Beats One and how popular Beats One is, but they didn't really talk about Apple Music, which does not surprise me. I think they're trying to keep things pretty quiet on that front. Yeah. I don't know. I'm using Apple Music right now. I'm doing the trial thing. My trial ends October 3rd. I don't know what I'm going to do when the trial ends. I thought I was going to stick with it. It seems to be getting buggier as the days go on. I don't know if it's just because I'm using it more or if it's actually getting buggier. But it makes me really worried, and it makes me kind of wonder about just using Spotify all the time and switching over to a paid Spotify account. But I like that Apple Music is integrated with the music I already own. Like, fully integrated on both devices. Everything is just there. Granted, my artist information and my artwork and song titles and stuff got fucked up a little bit, but having both libraries in the same app and not having to switch back and forth is really nice. And since they cost basically the same amount of money per month, I think that's a convenience worth keeping, as long as they make steady improvements to Apple Music and don't just abandon it, because right now it feels a little abandoned. Hasn't had an update in like 3 weeks, and everyone knows there are glaring features that aren't working, or aren't working like they're supposed to. I'm looking at you, Siri integration. You tell Siri to play an album, and it plays the version on the Apple Music Store, not the version on your phone. So it'll be like, oh, I'm going to play, trying to think, Positive Songs for Negative People Deluxe by Frank Turner on Apple Music. And I'm like, no, I bought this album. I want to play the standard edition version that I bought that's on my phone that doesn't use data. That's what I want. I realize these are like small little gripes, but, you know, it's my LTE data that I'm paying for versus the phone's hard memory that I've already paid for. It's a pretty sizable difference when you're streaming music for 8 hours a day at work like I am, and you have crappy work Wi-Fi like I do. Anything else? Have any questions about the new products, about what I use? Just general questions, shit talking. I see that 2 of you are still here, but I can't tell who you are. I don't like that about Periscope. I can see that on Meerkat. Any final thoughts before I close down the stream? Waiting. That's cool. Thanks for hanging out. If you were here, if you're watching this later on YouTube, because I'm probably going to save it and upload it there, thanks for doing that. I'm still trying to figure out this Periscope streaming thing for the podcast. I like it when we can just do these short little bonus videos, but it does really rely on the audience participation portion. So if you're a podcast fan watching this on YouTube, download Periscope. It's available for iOS and Android, and I think it's available. Yeah, it's available for iOS and Android. Just log in with your Twitter account, or create a Twitter account you'll never use just to log into Periscope, and then watch some Dudes Brunch bonus videos. We're gonna start doing these more as we just kind of have little things to talk about, things that may not make it to the full show, whether because one person is like the only person interested in it, or we just have too many good topics, which is not necessarily the case for this week, because I haven't even done any research for this week, which I should probably do when I get off of here. So thanks for watching. If you don't follow us, you can follow us at Dudes Brunch on Periscope and on Twitter, and we're on Facebook and YouTube. You can just search Dudes Brunch and we show up. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for talking some shit. And that's it. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and don't spend too much money on Apple products. Bye-bye.